have run a scan of the ship. but in wrestling form. Can I show you guys? Because it's not gonna feel right, and it's gonna be hard to explain myself if I don't show you the recent ratings from WrestleMania. And I want to compare it to something else. So bear with me when I do this, okay? The only one that I couldn't get my hands on, I can only assume because as of the recording of this video, he didn't post it yet, was the Seth Rollins and Gunther match. But aside from that, I'm pretty sure all the matches got posted as far as their star ratings are considered, right? So for the Usos and LA Knight versus The Vision and I Show Speed, that ended up getting 2.5 stars. The 4-way women's match for the tag team championships, that ended up getting 2 3/4 stars. AJ Lee versus Becky Lynch, that also ended up getting 2 3/4 stars. Drew McIntyre and Jacob Fatu ended up getting 4.
There it is, and mostly intact. It could have survived impact, but it's been years.
We'll get back to that though. Stephanie McCure and Liv Morgan ended up getting 2 stars. And the main event for night 1 being Cody and Randy Orton ended up getting 3.5 stars. So then we go on to night 2, right? Sami Zayn versus Trick Williams, they got 3 stars. Jade Cargill and Rhea Ripley ended up getting 3.25 stars. Finn Balor versus Dominic Mysterio ended up getting 3.5 stars. The 6-way Intercontinental Championship ladder match got 4 3/4 stars. This one right here, this is the one that really got me though, but for the reasons that I don't think you understand yet. Brock Lesnar and Oba Femi got 4 stars. Let that sink in for a second. We'll get back to that in a minute though. And this is the main reason why I made the video. This is the main reason why I'm making this video, because it's what I want to compare it to. CM Punk and Roman Reigns got 5 stars. Now, you may be saying to yourself right now, Devontae, the matches that Dave Meltzer for the most part highly rated, you like those matches. Yeah.
Repeat.
I love
Toxology
Punk and
alert.
Roman.
Dink.
5 stars.
Pause.
Not even fucking
Ronald
close.
Taylor was promoted
But I
under
love the
emergency
match. It's my
command
match of the year
protocols.
so far.
Others
As
local
lack
food
recording of this video,
impairment of
absolutely.
mental function
I think
due
that
to
match
chemical
fucking kicked so
imbalance
much ass.
begins
It's an
within
excellent
7
match.
days of impact on higher cognitive
Oba Femi
abilities
and Brock Lesnar,
long-term memory is
4
cumulative.
stars.
But significant within a.
they
It is
didn't
not
do
known
shit.
if neural decay is permanent.
I gave the
Data
match
collection was
an
not
A
completed.
because I thought it was a great
I assume
WrestleMania
unsafe
moment.
deceleration.
Given
Following
what
an
we know so
unspecified,
far,
the
maybe
Hugo
it's true,
Gernsback
maybe it's
then
not true.
decelerated at
But for what we can tell
782% of
so far,
theoretical.
at the
Let's get
very
going.
least, it's highlighting the
My
end of
father
Brock
had the beacon
Lesnar's
for almost
career.
9 years.
A
Maybe that
4-star
neural decay
moment,
affected him.
a 4-star
Avoiding it
match.
for a decade,
I don't
seems
think so.
unlikely.
I don't think so. But I bring this all up. And we'll get into the details in a minute in regards to the star ratings. I bring this all up
You came
because it's what I
from the
want you to
sky?
compare it to.
The leader said someone would come.
You see all those
he delayed
stars,
for
right?
so long, but he still
You see
has power.
the actual
Some have lost
presentation,
faith.
the things
hunters.
that went
They
into
will
those
have seen
matches,
your
whether
star.
you
They
liked
will
them,
not
whether
let
you
you
hated
help
them,
him.
Who
it
are you?
doesn't matter.
What was your rank?
You guys ever heard the old adage, if a tree falls in the forest,
He
doesn't make a
exiled
sound?
them. So they hunt his machines and those who
Check
help
this
him.
out real quick.
They don't believe
Will
that rescue
Ospreay
will
versus
come.
Mark Davis? Mark Davis? I
Hunters,
thought it was.
they won't stop
whatever.
until the
Fuck
leader
his
is
name.
dead.
Will Ospreay versus this guy.
them! Agents of the liar!
4.5
You will
stars.
not escape!
Now, unless you watched Dynamite, did you guys know that this match existed?
He's in
I
charge.
sure as hell didn't. But then again, I didn't watch Dynamite, right? So I don't know what
On
the
the
fuck
floor.
do I know.
One
But
left.
from what I can tell, 4.5 stars, that must mean Will Ospreay and Matt Davis, they must have thrown an absolute fucking clinic,
Impressive.
right? I mean, we're talking about Kurt Angle, Shawn Michaels levels of actual fucking wrestling. We're talking about damn near Undertaker and Shawn Michaels quality in regards to the actual wrestling in itself, right? I'm pretty sure the presentation was crazy. I'm pretty sure they've been feuding for like a couple of years now. There are a lot of things that went into this match outside of the actual spots that dictate why this is 4.5. Oh, no. You mean this
That
was a
wasn't
nothing
neural
match
decay.
on a
They were
nothing
feral.
episode of
My
Dynamite?
father wouldn't let this go on.
And we
Something's
just gave it
very
the
wrong.
rating because it most likely had cool spots. Oh, okay. Just making sure. Oh, but this one was my favorite one right here. Folks, apparently
Strip for
Roman
parts.
Reigns and
Tech's
CM
wearing
Punk,
out.
their
Those
5-star
hunters must be
classic.
laying on the pressure.
It's on par with Darby Allin.
Is that a settlement?
Tommaso Ciampa.
They'd better be friendlier than the Beach Group. I need answers.
Oh, you didn't hear me? Let me reiterate myself. Darby Allin and Tommaso Ciampa are on a
Clearly
par
docile.
with
but
Roman
There aren't any
Reigns
men
and
here.
CM Punk.
Maybe it
from
affects genders
WrestleMania.
differently.
Possibly. But the woman
The
on
main
the
event
beach
of
said the
WrestleMania.
exiled
It
one.
doesn't matter right now. One of these
We're actually going
You
to
have
take
his face.
the main event
He
of
promised to call the
WrestleMania
sky.
and
Forced
all
us
of this
to eat,
presentation,
to
including
decay.
the match, and we're
You
going
are
to put it on
cursed
par.
with his face.
Not the best reaction to
With
the
this.
family
Why would
resemblance.
my father force his crew to eat
Now,
toxic food?
Some people may be saying to
Go
themselves,
away.
Devontae,
You
why
are
does it
like
matter?
him.
It's just
You
one
will keep
person's
us here.
opinion. You know,
The hunters
if you
will
said
kill
some
you.
stupid shit
They
like
fight
that,
because he exiled
maybe
them
I
and
wouldn't
waited
mind it,
too long.
right? Yeah, it's just your opinion at the end of the day, right? Maybe it's some sicko where, I don't know, somewhere on Twitter or X or Instagram, wherever the fuck you're calling it nowadays, right? All these social media platforms nowadays are pretty much interchangeable in my eyes. If they were to say it, okay, chalk it up to the game. They're retarded, but they're allowed to be retarded. Right? Doesn't matter. When you have someone like a Brian
Trolls
Alvarez,
like that are a little much
like a
against
Dave
this bunch.
Meltzer,
Well, that would make
people
them hate
of
it.
that ilk,
Maybe
right?
it was just
Orion
for
Satin,
defense.
if you will, right? A Raj Giri, people of that ilk, but more so focusing on a Dave
Please,
Meltzer and a
here.
Brian Alvarez.
You
People
have
who
his
actually
face.
have motion within
This,
the
I
IWC.
forget how to
and you
read.
say to yourself, Devontae, who gives
Jacob,
a fuck about the
what does it
IWC?
say?
They're probably like the 0.1%.
Some of them
The
thought
problem
the
with
beacon
that
repair was
0.1%
my
is that
father
that
restricted the
0.1%
ship
now
food for
dictates the
himself and the
product.
other officers so they wouldn't be affected.
You know this to be
the
the
rest is a
fact.
casualty
You
list.
see how
Few
TKO or
mutinied
Triple
over
H
the
likes to
decision.
book
My father and his
WWE
officers
in order
turned
to
them
get the
excellent.
marks. That was the whole point behind
Beacon
Pat
was fixed
McAfee and his
after a
cringe
year.
ass
Those weren't the
promos
last
going
entries
into
on the casualty
WrestleMania.
list. In a
What's
year,
the pull the chain
all
of the
male
marks?
crew
Yeah.
members are flat.
Right?
And after the beacon is fixed,
AEW,
the
I mean,
officers
that shit
appear
just
in the
kinda writes
casualties
itself.
too. After.
They
father
use
took
the
the-
Do you see an explanation for
IWC
this?
as fuel
None of this
in
fits.
regards to
I
what
need to
gives
find
their
this man.
engine a bit of a horsepower, a bit of a rev, if you will, in order to go forward or move forward with the product. And who do you think runs the IWC from a mentality standpoint? Who do you think dictates the way that the IWC thinks or how they should perceive matches to be? Well, that would be the guy that's actually judging these matches. You see, for people who are saying things like, oh, well, Dave Meltzer, I mean, he's only one person. Brian Alvarez is only one person. You know, it's only their opinion at the end of the day. You shouldn't be taking it too seriously. What I get out of Dave Meltzer and Brian Alvarez making the opinions or saying the things that they say is that when you have matches like Darby Allin, which I'm pretty sure that this is stupid shit match, I've yet to see it. I'm almost certain they've done something really, really stupid in that match. Or if you look at Will Ospreay versus the Mark guy, I'm pretty sure they did some stupid shit. I'm pretty sure there's some no-selling bullshit. I'm pretty sure they took out of $1 million. I'm pretty sure there are some stuff that they did in that match where about 25 years ago, that would have probably been a nice way to write someone off the television. You essentially say, well, who gives a fuck about the television? You essentially say all the stuff that should matter, that should go into a star rating system, the presentation, the promo packages, what led up to the match, what comes out of the match, all of that stuff should just go directly out of the fucking window, because all that matters is how many stuff can you kick out of in the match, how many flips and kicks can you do. And when you actually put that on the forefront, Dave Meltzer, Brian Alvarez, all these fucking losers, and then you have the wrestling fans following directly behind them on the IWC and the internet, however you want to describe it. And then they take that mentality and go to the live show and they dictate the pacing of the entire fucking live audience, because most casual viewers just go there just to watch whatever is happening directly in front of them. You put a story in front of them, you read them the synopsis, and then they just kind of get it and they just go with the flow, right? Essentially. But with that would mean you would have to keep them entertained through the story in itself, if that's what you're going to do. But to now say that
There we go!
because you got a bunch of marks who's listening to a mark tell you how a match should be fucking judged, to the degree where you can take a Darby Allin versus Tommaso Ciampa on a regular episode of Dynamite, pretty much an open challenges for all intents and purposes, and put that on par with CM Punk and Roman Reigns, the fact that Punk and Reigns alone got 5 stars is already bad enough. Because essentially what you're seeing with that match as well, no matter how good it was, and it was an excellent match, is pretty much, hey guys, don't talk about any of the stuff going into the actual show in itself. Just strictly focus on what they're doing in the ring. And the in-ring stuff was fine. The in-ring stuff was palatable. That's why it's my match of the year personally, right? But they still had enough to go into the show to have something decent enough where now you're eligible to actually use a match to get to a certain point in regards to actually reviewing or critiquing it in a good faith manner. But when you negate all that for the most part, and you just say, well, no, we're going to judge it based strictly off of stuff, and the in-ring stuff deserves 5 stars, so we're going to focus strictly on that. And that's the main event of WrestleMania when it does not deserve 5 stars. And then here you are now, because this is what you do. You give this 5 stars when it doesn't deserve it. And now, mind you, I'm not stupid. That's exactly what David's doing. Now you get to say, well, we give that 5 stars. You know, we can justify Darby and fucking Tommaso Ciampa being 5 stars. Know the game. Know what they're doing. It's pretty obvious that's what they're playing by. They want to be able to see, well, we did this. And that match from the ring perspective is over as close to this match as it goes. So, I mean, you take all this stuff that this match with WrestleMania and then you factor it all in. And even though there are some things or little things that are vastly better than what Tommaso and Darby did, Tommaso and Darby, they have by far the superior match, and the distance in regards to perception in regards to their match versus Roman and CM Punk's match, that kind of makes it okay to put it on par now, because their match is vastly superior, and it's about as far superior as the other things that are pretty much better than Darby and Tommaso when taking into account Punk and Roman Reigns, right? So Punk and Roman, I'll put this in layman's terms for you guys. Punk and Roman had a better presentation. Punk and Roman obviously on the bigger stage. Punk and Roman in front of the bigger audience. Punk and Roman, better story, right? But all those things, even though they're better than Darby and Tommaso, they don't take priority over the in-ring stuff. So the in-ring stuff being far better than Roman and Punk, because it's the priority, that one thing now puts them on par with all these other 5 things. Right? It's like the, if I had to give a metaphor for it, it's like when women tell you things such as, oh, you know, beauty, you know, it's only on the inside. Fuck that shit. We all know that's bullshit, right? What matters, yes, is personality. What matters is, yes, what you bring to the table financially and all that other stuff, right? But what really, 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 really matters, the reason why women get all dressed up and they put makeup on their faces and they get their hair done and the dresses and the jewelry and all that stuff, is because they want to attract someone who's as attractive or more attractive as a counterpart compared to them. That's the whole point. All those other things do matter.
You're
but
here.
The beauty thing
I
is
knew a
so
real squad would blow through
and
just
it's such
fine.
a priority.
Sorry if the mech
that
scuffed
if you
your
do
pants.
that one thing right, it's pretty much on par.
I'll
with
get you something
how many
nice
things
when we
you
get back
fell
to
at
Alliance
miserably
Space.
With all
Gotta
the other
have
things
some
that
back
they
pay coming.
claim to care
What about your
more,
crew,
right?
acting captain?
That's what I'm saying. That's
Total
how
loss.
Dave Meltzer and the
Toxic
rest of his
food turned
marks
them
and his
wild.
fucking train.
They propped me up
That's
here
how
in
they
some kind
judge
of
this
ritual
shit.
behavior. Waiting
And if
for
you
a
don't
chance
believe
to
me,
signal it's
let
been
me ask
hell.
you guys a question. What's with the
That's the best you
inconsistency
can do.
in regards to
You
how
let
he's
all your
fucking
people
grading
talk
these
back like
matches?
that?
Quick
Who
question.
are you exactly?
Obafemi and Brock Lesnar, why the fuck is it 4 stars? Why?
Commander Shepard of the
Why?
Normandy.
Why?
I believe you're acquainted with
Why is
Mr.
that 4
Taylor.
stars?
Taylor.
Could it
Jacob.
be that you judged it strictly off
Not
of the
Jacob.
moment?
Why not me?
Because there's
10
no
years
way
of this look better
you
than
looked
anyone
at
else in the
match and
galaxy?
you said to yourself, the
You have
match
to
qualifies
understand,
for 4 stars.
this
Not
isn't
you.
me.
Absolutely.
The realities of command, they
Give me a
change you.
goddamn break. No,
I wasn't
sir.
ready for
I'm
that.
not buying that.
I made sure you
no.
were taught right
The match was like
before I
3 to
left.
4 minutes.
Hope
if
to
that.
leave it at that.
But you got to start for each fucking minute or some shit? No. Give
I'm not
me
unreasonable,
a fucking break.
Captain, but
you
10
judged
years?
it based off of the
What
moment.
happened?
God
You
damn
judged
it.
it based off of all
Why
the
did you do this to your
circumstances
crew?
that actually surrounded it. So why is it fine
was
to
resistance
apply
to the
that
plan.
standard
Mutiny.
to Oba
We had to
and
take a
Brock,
hard line to keep order.
but when it's
And things settled
tenfold,
down.
and when you should
As the
apply it
decay
to
set
say
in, we
Roman
made
and
sure the crew
CM
were
Punk,
comfortable.
you put Darby
Some
and
even seemed
Tommaso
happier.
on par
Ignorance
with
is
Roman
bliss,
and CM
right?
Punk even
And
though
they
it
were
has
grateful for
none of
guidance,
that.
like an instinct.
You get where I'm coming
Your
from?
authority was
You see
easy
where I'm coming from as far as the
at first.
inconsistency?
Months in,
That's why I'm saying,
the effect lowered
when you
inhibitions.
prioritize
They
wrestling
got
to such a degree
territorial.
that
Rank,
everything
protocol,
that does
they
make
couldn't
professional
understand.
professional
to
wrestling
establish dominance.
falls to the wayside,
After a while, the
and then
perks
you have
seemed
this
normal.
person who's
That's it?
dictating that
You
kind of
created a
pace,
harem and played
dictating
king?
that
10
type of
years in
ideals,
juvenile fantasy?
and then
I
it falls
can't point to
down
where it all
to the
went
rest of the
wrong.
retards that are
But when
following
the
them
beacon was
because
ready,
they can't
revealing
think
what
for
happened didn't
themselves.
seem like a
So
good
they use
idea.
Dave Meltzer as some fucking martyrdom in professional wrestling in order to show them the way of how wrestling should
What
be
happened to
dictated.
the other officers?
And then they
Anders
take that
found his
attitude,
conscience a little late
and
to
then
step back.
like
He
fucking
had an
viruses,
accident.
they infect
Things
every
got
fucking
tense.
person they come across who happen
End
to
of
be
the
in
day,
professional wrestling.
I was the one with the
And now
mix.
those
I
people,
got a
they
little
all
basic at
eventually
setting
go to the
examples.
live arenas.
But I was kind of my
They
people
riot,
once.
they
fought over
take
people
over,
like they
they
were
do all this
toys.
other stupid shit. They
Things.
dictate the
stories
narrative
from the ship
online,
couldn't last
and
forever.
executives,
You had
they
to
don't
think
have
for
any
one can really
feedback
stretch
loop in
things
regards
out.
to a
Besides,
consensus when
I can
looking
think
at
of a lot
actual
worse
casual
retirement
fans.
plans than
No
stripping
longer
down
do
and
you actually
joining
go
them.
to an
That was
arena
before the
and
hunters,
hear
of
people
course.
cheering. No
Dumb or
longer
not,
is there a
I'd feel it if
methodology
they got their
where you
hands
can
on me
actually,
now.
I don't know,
It's all
use
about
in
you.
order to, I don't know,
Everything.
look at some of the metrics
can help
to
these people.
know whether or not something is
Cerberus can
working
have
or
ships
something is
He's
not
not
working.
worth
No,
the fuel to haul him out.
your
or the air
direct
he's breathing.
and
He's
immediate
damn lucky I don't think he's even.
metric is social media.
I don't know who you are.
And this
'Cause
is
you're
what
not any
dictates it.
father I remember.
This is what I mean when you have people who have this. And look, I get it. Principle wise, mentality wise, I get where you're coming from, right? I understand the whole thought process of
We'll
this is
secure him
one
for an alliance
person's
accord.
opinion.
For every
Dave
year
Meltzer,
here,
that's
you'll have 10 to
just
think
his
about.
All the
opinion.
time in the
That's just
galaxy.
Brian Alvarez's opinion.
sorry, Jacob.
Don't get
I
angry.
did the
Don't
best
do
I
this.
could.
Don't do that.
I'm 10 years past believing that.
If you take that mentality and you use it for anything else, completely agreed. Completely understandable. And if anything, to not do that would make me believe you have some kind of mental issue, right? Some type of narcissistic disorder, right? To believe that you have to be right in every scenario, that you can actually believe someone else's opinion for the most part is wrong. There's no such thing as a wrong opinion. There could be retarded opinions, but there's no such thing as a wrong opinion. That's why they're opinions. But when you have someone in this type of position that have dictated professional wrestling for so long in
Don't
regards to
even
the
give them the
mentality
tail
of how the
lights.
fans should be actually, I don't know, engaging with the
What
product,
do you mean it wasn't
and
you?
you can actively see in real time the metrics constantly
Jacob,
being harmed
if
by
I had
this.
leaked the information about the
And you
guns
know
back,
that
I would
this
be
is the
smiling at your
man.
resolution of the
This is the
situation.
man with these
am not
inconsistent
smiling.
type of thinking or patterns of
goes through
behavior
this
in
ship.
regards to
My
how
ship,
he
without a
talks
report to
about or
you.
grades or reviews
I
or
had no
engages
more
with his
reason to
wrestling.
believe Jacob's father was alive than
Well,
he
now you
did.
see someone
But I'm
actively
happy to
being
know the
destructive,
situation
right?
is behind you.
Fine.
Now it goes
You
well
didn't fold
beyond
it.
past the
So
point
who
of someone
did?
having a
I
retarded
did.
opinion, and now their opinions for the most part is a detriment. You're
Figures.
using your
Who
thought
else could get into
process to
Cerberus
dictate
channels?
this, and now
was
all
hardly
of a sudden
classified,
people
just
believe that this is
obscure.
the way that it
There
should
was a
go,
time when it mattered
but it's
to you.
actively harming
Sending this
the
along
fucking
seemed like
business.
keeping an old promise.
Now
I keep
we
my
have
promises.
a problem.
Miranda will discuss
And the
your
only
liberal
solution,
interpretation of
in
security
my
protocol
opinion,
in private.
is to ignore these
Shepard,
people.
Jacob.
Now, unfortunately, that will never be the case. Unfortunately, that will never be the situation. Unfortunately, you'll have people who will try to constantly try to move the goalposts and constantly try to take things out of context.
You had
and
no idea Miranda
constantly
was behind
try
this?
to get away from the
No,
actual subject
she's got a
matter
good
at
memory.
hand to, I don't know, maybe
Can't
talk about
figure which
something
promise
else.
she
Any
meant,
way to
though.
deflect actually
Not
having
sure
to
I
talk
would
about
want
the
it.
problem because they know it's a problem.
You good
I'll
with
give
this,
you an
Jacob?
example.
It's
So you
all
see this video
Shepard.
right here, right?
Captain
Me
Taylor,
constantly
rotten
talking
prison.
about people's
I
opinions and
guess
this
he
and
was a
that
good
and that and
enough
the
father
third.
that even he
How much
can't
you want to
screw up
bet?
what he
There
taught
will
me.
be a
Come on.
couple of people
We've got work
who
to do.
will attack
Hi,
me,
Commander.
not based off of what I'm saying about Dave
Shepard.
Meltzer, right? But ignoring
Thanks for the
everything
help.
in regards to what I said about
Anytime.
everyone can have their opinion versus the people who are in positions who can dictate how things are going to go a certain way, and therefore they're actually eligible to be criticized about their opinions. No. Now it's you can't criticize because you're a hypocrite. You're not allowed to do certain things because that's a double standard. No. Don't call out behaviors because you might be exhibiting the same behavior, even though you exhibiting the same behavior for the most part has nothing to do with the person who is actually in power, putting across what is actually harming people, which is what you're legitimately criticizing. You're not actively criticizing the opinion, You're actively criticizing the detriment it's actually causing, the destruction that it's actually causing to the thing that you're actually trying to protect. That's the difference. But they ignore that kind of stuff because they so desperately want to deflect whatever that this person that they're worshiping at the moment is trying to put across. And now all of a sudden you have to sit back and you have to take it because you don't want to be called negative names. Oh, God forbid someone actually calls you a thing that distracts from the actual problem at hand to make you feel bad. Because apparently being a hypocrite or having a double standard or
important
doing
news.
certain
No, you're
things
busy. Have to deal with too important to wait.
exonerate
Just receiving data.
the entire
You
conversation
remember my
in
work?
regards
I
to
remember.
the person who's being
Didn't
criticized at that
tell you
moment, right?
personally led a team, created new version of genophage, released it
Just
onto
saying,
Chunker,
man.
other colonies.
Just saying, just my
Restabilized
thoughts. So
broken
let me know your
population.
thoughts down in the comment section below.
Nice job.
As always, my
Very
name is
difficult.
Devontae,
Yes.
aka Millennial
Complex work
Smart,
to stabilize.
and I'll be
Glad to see
catching
you
you guys
understand.
later.
Had to be
Stop
done.
letting these people
what does your old job
dictate
have to do with
professional
video games?
wrestling.
Blood pack mercenaries
All they
captured
do
former team
is
members.
create a
Recovering
landscape
Mayland
of
would be a
absolute
personal favor to me.
fucking
We'll
wrestling
go
brain.
John
Appreciate it.
Barnes.
Mayland
My
last seen
juices
outside
and
Erdnot.
a P. Ice.
Commander, I think you'll want to talk to Garrus.
Commander, what can I do for you?
You have a minute, Miranda?
I do. I suppose. I don't know what this is. If this is stress or just blowing off steam or...
I care about you, Miranda. And I think you care about me.
This is no time for emotional entanglement. You and I know more about the Collectors than anyone. We know how unlikely it is that we're coming back alive. What idiotic bunch of hormones thought that now was a great time for love?
Who said anything about love? I'm just trying to get you into bed.
You ass.
Come on, Miranda. You want this.
Yeah, I do. So don't die. You promised me, damn it.
I died once already. I don't plan to do it again.
Give me some time. When I'm ready, I'll come by, okay?
Thank you, Commander. Rupert put the new supplies to good use.
Shepard, I'm glad you came by. I've got something. I may need your help. You remember the fight on Omega?
I don't think either of us will forget that day anymore.
You know I didn't work alone. I had a team of... They all died that day. A Turian named Sidonus survived. He betrayed us, Shepard. He's the reason my men are dead.
Do you know why he did it?
No. He disappeared just before the attack, but there's a specialist on the Citadel named Fade. He's an expert at helping people disappear. Sidonus was seen with him.
Where do we find Fade?
I've arranged a meeting. We'll meet him in a warehouse near the Neon Markets down on Zakera Ward. Thanks, Shepard. I appreciate you taking the time to help me.
How may I help you, Commander?
Do you have everything you need?
I believe so. This medical... Only thing I even had a bottle of Ceres Ice brandy that I was.
I'll keep an eye out for
Oh, you
her.
needn't. It's expensive.
I'll see you later,
Commander.
This video is going to be how WWE's self-inflicted fragmentation has led, cuckolds, to us being forced to watch jobber after jobber after jobber, while the few stars, quote-unquote, that they have left appear sporadically and in random ass places. So, you want to watch someone you like? Maybe you like El Grande Americano Original or El Grande Americano Ludwig, you know what I'm saying? Either way, if you want to watch these two cocksucks, you're going to have to find yourself on YouTube and watch Triple A. The champion of Triple A is Dominic, and he appears on Raw, where JD also appears, and where Finn was their group member. But you might watch Finn today, tomorrow he might be the demon, acting a little gay, you know what I'm saying? All these things are difficult to keep track of. Things were much better when things were much simpler. It was very simple, cucks. You get home from school on Monday, you do your homework, and you pray that you are done before like 7, right? At 7 o'clock, you start watching some TV. Maybe you got a little bit of Fear Factor with Joe Rogan up in that bitch if you're the hater. Then around 8, you switch off to WCW. You watch the first hour from 8 to 9, and at 8:59 sharp, you switch the channel to watch Raw because it's better. Then you watch that shit periodically. Maybe you take a look at what's happening in WCW during the commercials. Times were good. 2 wrestling shows simultaneously. You knew exactly where things were, and you knew exactly what you're going to see.
Your parents agreed.
This is the biggest insult that WWE has done to us. It's not the ads, although that's a close second. It is the fact that you are not guaranteed to watch dick. Random episode of SmackDown, Cucky Rhodes may or may not be there. You're not going to know until you tune in. You know? Random episode of Raw. Roman Reigns may or may not be there. Random episode of Raw. Roman Reigns will not be wrestling in it. Forget about that shit. That's not gonna happen. You're not good enough for that. You gotta pay 15 grand to see a mediocrity wrestle. You see what I'm saying? This is the problem. Everything is in a different channel, and the champions, right? The people that are presented as stars, if you want to get a peek at them, first of all, seeing them wrestle, that's not going to happen unless it's pay-per-view or a PLE or a fucking Saturday night's main event. In addition, if you want to see them do other shit that is uninteresting and that they're not talented at, you can go watch Cody Rhodes. What do you want to talk about? Gee, I don't know, maybe your lisp, your insecurities, and your appearance. You're a fucking Fred from Scooby-Doo looking motherfucker. Put a monocle on this asshole and you got all you need. Roman Reigns, this motherfucker is nowhere to be seen. That I can at least respect. He comes and goes, but when he comes, he's on, and when he goes, he's gone, motherfuckers. Simple as that. Then you got the pseudo-stars. These are the people that I'm starting to hate the most, because I've come to terms with the fact that Cody Rhodes isn't wrestling on SmackDown, and that Roman Reigns hasn't wrestled on Raw in over a year. And if you count, like, only that, you know, January 6th episode, when they debuted on Netflix, if you take that away from the equation, I think it's been like 5 years since this cocksuck has wrestled on TV. You know, it's unacceptable. That's like 5 years of his prime. The rest of his prime is probably from 35 to 40, according to most that are in the industry that I've spoken to, you know? But, with that being said, we got to see his prime with him wrestling like a few times a year, you know? Then you got like the Brock Lesnar's. That's, you know, a different category altogether. He's gone, so it's not even worthwhile to talk about. Now, with that being said, we got the pseudo-stars, right? In this category, I'm going to place people like, at this point, I have to do it, Jacob Fatu. Jacob Fatu has been back for several months, and as far as I can remember, the cocksucker has only had 1 match on SmackDown. Right? I don't even think it was like a real match. It ended in like a DQ or some bull, you know what I mean? And then all of a sudden, he beats Drew McIntyre, more on him later, and all of a sudden, he's like the number 1 contender, kind of, for the Raw title. What the fuck? How did he jump the entire line of guys at Raw? Anyways, you got him. You got CM Punk. who even if he's champion or he's not champion, this guy is gonna come around once every 2 to 3 weeks, and he's gonna wrestle once every, I don't know, 6, 7 weeks on free TV. You're not getting a CM Punk match every Monday night. By no means is that happening, right? Then there's like people like Drew McIntyre. We've already talked about this guy's fucking feedback loop. Here's Drew McIntyre's career for the last 5 years. He comes out, he picks a fight with someone that's gonna beat him at the end, right? The fight is over some dumb shit, usually involving some sort of bracelet or some other goofy crap. And then he says, for no reason, he says, Punk. If he's CM Punk, he says Punk. If it's the Cuckster, he says, Ode. And if it's Jacob Fatu, he says, Jacob. And then he has what should be a catchphrase, what should be a Drew McIntyre catchphrase. And it goes a little something like this. Ode, you took everything from me. That's pretty much what he says. Then he comes out and then he says that a couple of times over like 3 weeks. Then the other guy beats his ass and then Drew McIntyre is gone for 3 months. And as you all know, made famous on this channel, he comes back and that cuck, Wade Barrett, says, oh, Maggle! Ah, he's sounding a little bit like JBL.
More so than usual.
He's like, it's Drew McIntyre. Oh, it's Drew. Oh, it's a new version. Oh, this is a new version of Drew McIntyre. Forget everything you knew. I've known Drew for 15 years, and I've never seen a version quite like this one. And it's like, dude, how many fucking versions does this cocksucker have? What is this guy, Meowth? Meowth has like 19 versions from Pokemon, and this cocksucker is like Meowth. We got Alolan Drew McIntyre, we got Cut Drew McIntyre, but all the time he comes back, acts the exact same way, and Drew McIntyre is out there doing the one thing that he knows how to do, and that's say, Code, you took everything from me. And then when he comes back, he says, now Code, I'm here to take everything from you. You know, that's pretty much it. While Wade Barrett carries this guy's dumbass career by saying stupid shit like, oh, it's a new version. And then Michael Cole has to like acquiesce to this shit because what is he gonna say? Hey, excuse me. Wait, it's not a new version. Oh, it's the same guy. He sucks. You know, that's what he should say, but he doesn't, right? So these are the guys that don't show up enough. Drew McIntyre somehow found himself, he's like France in World War II. He just like finds himself as part of the winners, even though they didn't do anything to contribute, you know what I mean? Let's be honest, by the way, in America, we learned that like America won World War II, but anybody that knows anything about world history knows, and this is a big shout out to the Russians. If it weren't for them, like 90% of us would be speaking fucking German, and honestly, a lot of us would fucking be dead. If you're basically not European white, you would be dead right now if it weren't for Russians. Plain and simple, cuz they saved the world from Hitler, because once he took over Russia, he would have had no problem taking over Asia and Africa. He would have done that in like a week and a half. You know what I'm saying? So everyone's lucky that this motherfucker was stopped by the Russians. Shout out to the Russians. So anyways, back to wrestling, cucks. These are just the facts of life. The hater gives it to you raw. So anyways, probe away. These people are the ones that show up a little bit more frequently than the Cucksters and the Roman Reignses of the world, but they don't show up enough. Then, and I hate to be like a fucking CM Punk pipe bomb guy, but then you got the people that are carrying this motherfucker. For a while, it was Ludwig Kaiser, and now Ludwig Kaiser has been, I don't want to call it a demotion, because it's more of like a gimmick-based lateral to Triple A, because I think in Triple A, he's like a big deal, you know? But now, it's been like the people like him, Penta. I give props for do, motherfuckers. Penta's out there wrestling every week. On SmackDown, it's our boy Carmelo Hayes, and for a while, it was Ilya Dragunov, but I haven't seen this cuck wrestle in like 2 months, you know? Fuck him, you know what I'm saying? You can kiss my ass. What do you think of Femme Apples, you know? It's a few people that have been carrying these companies, you know, these brands, for months at a time. Like 2 years ago, it was the New Day. It's like Kofi and Xavier were wrestling like every fucking week. They're out there getting it done. Now, it's like the tag team titles never get defended. And on the women's side, again, gotta give props where props are due. Number one, Io Sky. Io Sky, she's been out there botching every match, but she's been out there botching every match every fucking day, motherfuckers. She's out there getting it done. Lyra Valkyria, I don't like her, but she's out there getting it done. Bailey out there getting it done. You know what I mean? On SmackDown, you got basically nobody. Nobody wrestles on SmackDown, but if there's anyone that gets close, it's gonna happen. Until she got injured, it was Chelsea Green. You know, she was out there wrestling all the damn time up in this bitch, and now it really is nobody. On SmackDown, it's like you might see Zelina Vega one week, then you don't see her for 9. You know, you might see fucking Jade Cargill come out. She wrestles once every 3 months on SmackDown. Then you don't see her again. You know, Michin, you see her sporadically. Nobody on SmackDown wrestles enough, and if it's anybody that does, it's probably like Lash Legend and Nia Jax. They're the ones, for a while, like for like 2 years ago or a year ago, Nia Jax was holding the motherfucker down. You know what I'm saying? Nia Jax was in every SmackDown, fucking dropping her ass on people's faces. You know what I'm saying? But now SmackDown is pretty much being carried by Carmelo Hayes, and I will give the assist to Trick Williams. Trick Williams doesn't wrestle as frequently as Carmelo, but he's out there trying to get it done. And you see the kind of people that I'm giving credit to right now, motherfuckers? Because the next one is gonna surprise your bitch asses. I gotta give some props to my boy, that's right, Sami Zayn, motherfuckers. Sami Zayn holding it down. Now, the astute and or the astute, I should say, and the discerning. What an asshole I am, right? This is what happens when you don't have a script. I say it like it is. So you might hear me talk, and one day I might be like, bitch, cunt, shit, ass. I can say it all, man. I say whatever the fuck I want. What do you think of them apples? So anyways, you got these people. They all have something in common. I think you all know. Except for Carmelo, who is growing on me a little bit, and Ludwig, who was growing on me until they triple A'd his ass, right? All these people are, drum roll please, abject jobbers. Nobody wants to see any of these fucks wrestle. Nobody woke up on a random Friday and said, gee, I really hope Ilya Dragunov wrestles today. That sentence has never been said until I just said the motherfucker right now. You understand me? Same thing with Trick, same thing with fucking, you know, what's that broad? Io Sky. Nobody cares about any of these people, you know? But they know this, motherfuckers. So instead, they're like periodically, they're like, oh, here's like a 20-man battle royal. And you're looking there, you're like, what the fuck are these guys? You see like Joaquin Wilde. I saw my boy, Raul Mendoza, underrated still. But this guy looks completely different. I'm like, what the fuck is that guy? Oh shit, it must be Raul Mendoza. Who else could it be, right? Then you see like all of a sudden you get like Pagano or something. Oh, Pentagoncito. Oh, it's Hexagon Jr. You know, like you get all these people named after shapes. What the fuck is up with that, by the way? Oh, Octagon, Hexagon, Pentagon is there. Are they? Are they? Go fuck yourselves. What do you think of them, Apple? So basically, you see like some guy dressed as a clown. He rips off his clown face to reveal an evil face, and you're like, wow, this is literally like we're scraping the bottom of the barrel, you know? Mr. Iguana, all these jabrones, you know, NXT people that come and go. That thing I fucking hate. I hate when they come and go. You know, like Gargano, like first he's on NXT, then he's on SmackDown doing nothing. Then he's on NXT again, like make up your fucking mind, bro. Make up your mind, cucks. So what I'm getting at here is that WWE does this on purpose, right? They limit our access to the good wrestlers. So you have someone, for example, like Obafemi, right? Obafemi, who is, in my opinion, destined for failure. At this point, I think it's done. WrestleMania feels like it happened 3 years ago. Obafemi came out and he said, I am the ruler, and that's it, or whatever he said. The ruler is here. Some other goofy shit, doesn't matter, you know? Now they're not gonna follow up with him probably. He's probably gonna come out and say something next week too, and that's 2 weeks of him not wrestling. Then it's 3 weeks of him not wrestling. Before you know it, it's a month. Then he's gonna enter into a pay-per-view based feud against some jobber. It's gonna be him versus like fucking Aleister Black, or someone of that caliber, you know? Someone like the Aleister Black Rusev, you know, scenario, right? I could see that happening, and he's gonna win that feud, but like it's gonna be like one of those 3-month feuds. You know, like when fucking, what was it? Damian Priest had that long-ass feud with Aleister Black. It's gonna feel like that. It's gonna be like one of those feuds that take like 8 months to resolve and nobody cares about it, you know? And then before you know it, it's gonna be time for the King of the Ring. And I mean, I kinda hope Obafemi wins, but if he wins the King of the Ring, I think it's fucking, then it's like done for sure, right? If he wins that, he's not beating Roman Reigns right now. Roman Reigns is being projected to have like a massive run. In my opinion, I don't think he's gonna lose it. And then if he beats Roman Reigns, then motherfucker, then he's fucking out of the frying pan and into the fire. And that's gonna come down directly and entirely to him. If they make him champion and he fails, then he fucking always sucked, which is exactly what I think is gonna happen if he becomes champion. So there you have it. He's not ready for any of that shit yet, but the point is, it doesn't matter if he's ready for that or not. He's ready to be put in the Drew McIntyre spot, in the Jacob Fatu spot, the spot of people that never wrestle on TV. You know, they're trying, and do you not see what's happening, motherfuckers? Okay, fine. You started out with Brock Lesnar. Yes, Brock Lesnar is fucking awesome, so you can get by. You can forgive the WWE to a certain extent for presenting Lesnar in that manner, right? Because he's Brock Lesnar. Then they started doing it with Roman Reigns, and you're like, okay, I don't know. Roman Reigns isn't that big of a deal, but fine, you know? Then Cena started doing it. You're like, all right, fine, Cena, you know, he's put in his work, etc., etc. Then all of a sudden, they're doing it with new motherfucks. They're doing it with Cookie Rhodes, who for all intents and purposes was new. Seth Rollins, you think Seth Rollins is gonna wrestle on Raw? Like this week? Probably not, motherfucks. He's another one of these upper mid-card types, right? He's like on the Jacob Fatu level. This guy wrestles when you pay for it, motherfucker. When it's free, you're gonna get Ilya Dragunov versus Trick Williams. There's a hierarchy to this. And there's nothing wrong with a little bit of a hierarchy. But back in the day in WWE, the episode of Raw functioned the same as the episode of any pay-per-view, right? The mid-carders wrestled in the middle of the card. The undercard wrestlers wrestled first. There was a tag match, a women's segment or something. And then in the end, the show almost always closed with main event caliber talent. Once in a while, you got like a main event squash match, like it'll be like, you know, like Matt Hardy versus The Undertaker or something like that, right? Or Jeff Hardy versus The Undertaker, player. And you're like, all right, Jeff Hardy's not really up to par, but it's like against The Undertaker for the world title, so like it is what it is, you know? And you're gonna get some memorable moments out of that. But nowadays, the main event can literally be like a Liv Morgan versus fucking, I don't know, versus like, you know, like who's the jobber on Raw? Like everyone's kind of accounted for it. It would make no sense. But let's say like it could be her versus Maxine. Right, that could be that's like a viable main event on Raw right now. Is Liv Morgan versus Maxine, neither of which should be anywhere near the motherfucker. You know why? Because there's no scenario in which the main event of Raw is Roman Reigns versus Gunther, right? That's never gonna happen. You know what I mean? It's never gonna be a scenario where like Roman Reigns comes out and says I'm the number one, and Gunther comes out and says, you know what? Screw you, I'm number one, right? And then they're like, oh yeah, you want to prove it? If so, tonight in this very ring, right? And if you had good, worthwhile, you know, mid-carders, you can get that done too, right? Maybe Cookie Rhodes comes out and cuts a promo, he gets interrupted by Trick Williams, right? And Trick says, you know what, Cody? Like, you know, you stole my catchphrase, let's talk about it, right? You know, ironically. And then Cody's like, Trick, you have all the, like, this is exactly what Cody would say. You have all the talent in the world, but you're not focused enough, you know? And then Trick would be like, yeah, well, I got my lemon pepper steppers, and I'm gonna bounce that ass on you, so you'd say some goofy shit. He'd be like, man, I'm gonna put mouthwash in my toes, and I'll show you that I'm the number one, right? And people will be like, what the fuck's he even saying? Like, nobody even understands what he's saying. He doesn't know what he's saying. He's like lost in his own words. He doesn't have what it takes to do what I'm doing, for example, which is talking without a script. He can't handle it, you know? Now, granted, I'm in my fucking little arcade in my basement. I'm not exactly in front of, you know, 20,000 people, but I think the point stands, right? But imagine if that happens, right? Imagine if that's what happens. You know, this happened back in the day with Triple H and Billy Gunn. I'll be right there. Like one time Triple H was the champion, he's like, I am the game. And then Billy Gunn comes out and he says, you know what, Hunter, right? He's like, you wanted me on your side because you knew that if I was on your side, I wouldn't come after you. But now, I'm coming after you. And they have like a match, Triple H wins with interference from China. Then like 3 months later, DX is back, you know, which is one of the greatest runs of all time, right? So with that being said, you know, do that. Right? The up-and-coming mid-card motherfucker says to Cody, I want a title shot. And Cody, being that he's a grown man and a fighting champion, he says, sure, let's have the match. Then you can have Trick almost win, right? You can have Cody win, and that's fine. Trick gets a massive rub from that. A much bigger rub than he would get beating Sami Zayn, which is completely meaningless. You see what I'm saying? But they're not gonna do that. They're gonna think to themselves, this might be a WrestleMania match one day, because they have no foresight. And nobody that's kind of like a big deal can lose more than like once every several months, you know? So what do? They can't keep winning either because that's just goofy, because nobody cares. If Gunther beats Tozawa, nobody gives a shit, right? So they'll just have Gunther never wrestle. They'll have Obafemi never wrestle now, you know? And then what? He's 26, he's not gonna wrestle? Who the fuck? What am I watching that kicks this? So that's what I'm getting at, motherfuckers. They don't have these matches anymore. Now, Trick Williams in that example is someone that would be considered a decent mid-carder, at least in the eyes of WWE, right? He's the US champion. You know, but what it should be is Gunther comes out and says, I am the best in this very ring, and then Obafemi says, no you're not. No you're not, motherfucker. I beat Lesnar. I'm gonna beat your ass tonight. And then you can even have the match and Gunther hits him with a chair or something, starting a feud. They're not gonna roll their load on that, right? They'd much rather not have either one of these motherfuckers wrestle than have them wrestle each other. It takes nothing for them to make a match like that. right? Back in the day, you had solid mid-carders, right, who were never going to be main eventers, but like they were solid mid-carders, some of whom became main eventers when things hit the fan. But like, for example, you had like Eddie Guerrero, right, who was like as much of a mid-carder as you could take, right? He could never be lower than that. You know, he was a firm mid-carder with aspirations of maybe one day possibly becoming a main eventer. He achieved that for like 3 months, you know? But he comes out in one of the greatest promos of all time. The Rock is out there doing Rock shit, right? He's like, you know, The Rock says that I'm the WWE champion, and then all of a sudden you hear like, Latino, yeah. Then the girl comes out with the yoke, looking like a star. You know what I mean? Not looking like a jobber. He comes out looking like a star, and he's like, oh, The Rock, La Roca, ese. You know, this is one of the greatest promos of all time, right? Where he's like, Rock, you think you're Mr. Big Shot, ese? He's like, well, last night, he's like, I was tucking in my little girls, my chavelitas, right? And he's like, and I see a picture of me, their father, Holmes. And right next to that picture, I see a poster of El Rey, and then he like botches it a little bit. I remember this promo like verbatim, right? He's like, the Scorpion King, ese, because he was gonna say like El Rey is Scorpion, but I think like he just botched it. And then he's like, so you know what I did, Rock? He's like, I took the poster and I ripped it up in front of them. And then he starts playing the role of his daughters. He gets on his knees and he's like, ¿Por qué, papa, por qué? And then he gets up and plays the role of himself and he's like, shut up! Right? He's like, respétame! Cállate! And then The Rock is like, whoa, 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 you sick freak! Like, we're never gonna see that shit again. Number one, nobody on the roster can do what The Rock does. That's, you know, goes without saying. And absolutely, not one person in this company can do what Eddie Guerrero did. Right? They can't cut a promo like that. CM Punk cannot cut a hilarious promo like Eddie Guerrero. He's not funny at all. You know? He's like, none of these people are funny. That's another big thing, right? So with that being said, you know, we're gonna be like stuck here doing God knows what, God knows who, until like this company gets better, motherfuckers. Which is not anytime soon. So that being said, take care of yourself and go fuck your own asses.
Very well.
Okay. Can't get there.
Contact!
Getting out of fire.
As good a place as any.
What a time to be alive, and what a great masculine and manly shirt this is. In any case, beyond obvious, it is rare to see the whole world come together in condemning something absolutely vile and disgusting. If you haven't watched Invincible Season 4, you probably at least have heard about this, the fact that everyone is pretty upset with what's currently happening, and rightfully so. The situation is very disgraceful, very disrespectful, and very vile on pretty much all levels. But the memes are glorious, and the conversation is, well, the conversation is obvious, and the people on the wrong side are rightfully currently getting decimated online. Meet potential woman. 0 pizza, 0 relevance, a lot of calories though. Just wait, once she overcomes the mental block, she'll be able to summon even more walls. Truly, we definitely need walls. She's the most powerful hero in the verse. Technically, I guess true, but honestly, who cares at this point?
Very well.
Burns calories by using her powers, still ends up a beast. We all know that this is true. Give me liberty, give me fight, give me unborn babies, or I retire. Ugh. True. If you don't know what this situation is about, by the way, it's about abortion. The fact that they gave her an abortion and she's the victim because of it. I think it's true. A long, long time ago, Hillary Clinton once boldly proclaimed women are the greatest victims of war. How true and right the Queen keeps saying, obviously. Use my powers creatively? No. I mean, it's for something that's inspired by Green Lanterns. Summon 100 pink walls to do nothing. Big, true, and real. Only confirmed the ultimate kill was a fetus. That's a spicy one. In any case, it gets better. Okay, listen, the memes, and we're gonna move on from the memes to the actual things that people are saying that's super stupid and unhinged. I'm gonna look into that. It's gonna be great. But now, let's just have a little bit more fun. Eve woke up and decided to choose violence. Debbie, you'll get, by the way, Debbie, respectable, best choice, absolutely great. She, at the end of the day, came back to her man, even though he was a genocidal maniac, which embodies pretty much literally everything women value in men most of the time. But in any case, that's too big of a conversation for you just yet.
Hard to imagine how a Turian
Debbie,
patrol could take
you'll
that
get to choose the baby's future after it's built. Atomic Eve, I choose that.
We can't let an opportunity
absolutely
like this
on point.
by.
Absolutely on point. I love the fact that everyone is making fun of this situation.
You can be in and out before the
we have this situation. Overted or woke. Eve was afraid she might have to raise a child alone. By the way, technically she's a millionaire because they had that invincible defense thing that people probably had to pay a lot. So she murdered it without first telling the father she was even pregnant through. And Invincible apologized, and this is why people are mad. Not only is she the victim, the guy who got PTSD from going to war, by the way, is also needs to support her because obviously it's just really repulsing and disgusting. I'm sorry I did this to you. Invincible apologized to Eve after she tells him she aborted his child. Yep. That's this whole situation, by the way. And now, bro, that's a wall. Here's the thing. I get what they're trying to do here, but it doesn't make sense for Eve as a character in the world they live in. Why would raising a child alone be a problem for her or scary? True, base and real. Exactly. She doesn't have a job that she needs. She doesn't go to school. Her powers can literally create anything, shelter and resources, food and diapers for her and the kid. For Pete's sake, she used to live in a treehouse mansion for months without end. True. True. Now, granted, at that time she didn't have her powers, but everyone figured out why, right? And if it's about losing her free time, she could have easily hired a babysitter for the day when she wants for herself. Now, this shouldn't even be an argument because that's kind of wild, but I mean, this is the modern world we live in. In any case, feel free to pause and read the rest of this if you want to, or we're moving on because better things, okay? So this one's a good one. A boyfriend is the strongest Wiltram. She herself is indestructible, can easily raise the child, aborts it, plays the victim, and cries. Yes. Considering these are very obvious summaries of the situation, no wonder people are upset. And this is the poorest idiotic way to try and actually justify this. A boyfriend was about to go to war on an entire different planet. So that's why you chose to not tell him? Okay, yeah, that's reasonable. Losing her powers and completely vulnerable due to sudden pregnancy. Bro, what do you mean completely vulnerable? Everyone is as vulnerable as her in that situation. In fact, she has more protection than the average because, well, you know, in the show Cecil and whatnot. Yeah, she lost her powers, but she is still way more protected than anyone else and not in immediate danger from, well, anyone because no one knows her identity. Father is awful, mother does whatever he says. The father is not awful. The father actually wants what's best for her. And just doesn't like super powered people because, well, they endanger her. The father literally explicitly says why he doesn't like Mark is because she is capable and strong and whatnot. But she did get injured because of him. Which is actually pretty on point, and you can't really say anything against that, even though we kind of want to, right? Feels she has no choice but abortion. Aha! Oh, poor Eve, no choice. Invincible spans are spineless and unsympathetic. Nope, you're just stupid. It is what it is. Number of Filtermites killed. Oliver 0, Atomic Eve 1. Self high five, boys. What a time to be a time. Oh yeah, pretty accurate. And now we're gonna get into the better stuff. Anissa is way better than Atomic Eve. True, real, and based. At least she didn't abort Mark's child. True. If you know anything more about this, you're probably yelling even more true. Okay, and here's more. Oh, that's a picture for me for later. Anyway, the abortion controversy involving Eve has social media on fire right now, but will the Invincible show handle the situation between Mark and Anissa? Will they address it, skip over it entirely, or rewrite it?
The missing humans are on it. Unless they're dead.
I'm just gonna come out and say it right here. Anissa did nothing wrong. Free my girl. She did nothing wrong. Absolutely nothing. Mark's just a pussy, okay? Listen, if you choose Eve over Anissa, I mean, you made the wrong choices, okay? It's just bad. It is bad, okay? We want to live in this future right here, don't we? This is the right future. This is actual possibility woman right here, okay? And I mean, even she didn't abort Mark's child, okay? She actually loves that child later onward. So this is what we're literally dealing with here, okay? Strong, independent, capable woman that actually does things that Eve says is impossible. Bro, she doesn't even have a house. She doesn't have social security. She doesn't know which street she lives on. Eve's literally a millionaire. And yet she decided to keep it. And is a good mom. Absolutely disgusting. Every Atomic Eve fan should feel bad about themselves because reasons. Anyway, have a nice day. Bye. I just wanted to say real quick, I know, amazing cut. So I don't really understand why some people in the comment sections are saying things like, nice lesbian haircut. I support you coming out. Why? Why? Or the always for some reason prevalent, did you do it yourself? Or was your barber high? I don't understand this. Everyone sees and knows it's amazing. Stop joking around about my haircut in the comments, okay? In any case,
I'm uploading the data from this terminal.
Bethesda has gotten to the point where it is so replaceable, so lost in sauce, that everyone who can is speaking out against them because everyone can tell that Bethesda is on its last legs and something massive has to happen with it. So people like Chris Avalon are now officially coming out and saying, yeah, Bethesda hated us for making the best Bethesda game out there, aka Fallout New Vegas. They hated everything that we did because we did it better. And I think more people are gonna come out and say these things as time passes and Bethesda loses even more power.
Today, we are gathering to talk about Fallout New Vegas, where Chris Avalon sat down with TK Mantis to talk all things Fallout for 3+ hours, which is really cool to see. I've yet to give the full thing to listen, but it certainly produced a ton of headlines. We're talking about everything from New Vegas 2 to a remaster and what that could look like, and also a power play that Bethesda made Obsidian sit through. And boy, do I have thoughts on that. I never bought into the whole idea that Bethesda and Obsidian are cool. And this is that kind of generational beef that this type.
Wait, I think I explicitly remembered Maddie saying there was probably no beef.
The move by Bethesda absolutely creates. So we're going to walk through all of it here. Was there ever a New Vegas 2? We'll talk about that. Is the remaster possible with Bethesda? We'll talk about that. And then, of course, this PowerPoint is, I think, the juiciest part of it all. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome. Get comfortable. Let's start off with the New Vegas 2 headline. This one comes from Games Radar, and they write, Fallout New Vegas 2 was real at one point before Obsidian's plans quickly evaporated, says senior designer, but a revival will not happen in the next 6 years at least, if ever. In a recent talk with TK's man,
I gave this prediction years ago at this point, that Pod will never let a remaster happen. Now, on a theoretical scale, he's always gonna leave the Fallout New Vegas remaster open for his Microsoft overlords to be happy, because it's on the table. But this is what Todd's gonna do. This is what Bethesda's plan is. They're gonna be like, well, we're currently making Elder Scrolls 6, so we can't really fit in the Fallout IP there. So it's gonna be Elder Scrolls 6, then it's gonna be Fallout 5, then it's gonna be like some kind of remaster, or these remasters are gonna be in between. And if the remasters happen, it's gonna be probably Morrowind, and it's gonna be Fallout 3. Remember, Todd's secret love child is obviously Fallout 3. And he loves it, and he's obviously going to prioritize that, even though pretty much almost everyone unanimously, well, I shouldn't say unanimously, I did a poll once, and, well, it had like something like 2,000 votes, and actually it was way more better in the direction of Fallout 3 than I thought when asked people, do you want a remake of Fallout 3 or a Fallout New Vegas or some other option? And the majority, like 70-ish% was on Fallout New Vegas, but 30% were on Fallout 3, which I thought was actually amazingly high numbers. I thought it would be less. So people are interested in Fallout 3, but Todd Howard has like excuses on piles of excuses to why Fallout New Vegas remake needs to be pushed back 50 years at this point.
Avalon was asked about Fallout 2 developer Black Isle Studios canceled Fallout 3, which was codenamed Van Buren. Specifically, TK's Mantis asked whether his theory that New Vegas acts as if the events of Van Buren happened is correct. It turns out TK's Mantis is partly right, and that there are certain things that were going to take place in Van Buren that do happen during the time of New Vegas, Avalon says. Other than what Avalon calls the Caravan Wars, which refers to the conflict between the NCR and a merchant mafia that would have been a major plot point in Van Buren, which we saw a little bit in New Vegas, but not a ton of. Van Buren's story influenced New Vegas. That said, Avalon confirms he did try and set up Van Buren for New Vegas, and that's where we get to the thrust of this story. That's why all these nukes go off, because I'm like, well, I need to destabilize some regions, like not wipe out factions, but I need to shake up both the Brotherhood, I need to shake up the NCR, I need to have this even more.
Oh, that's a jab at the Fallout team. I honestly think at this point, we are probably gonna see even Tim Kaine.
What the hell just
yes,
happened?
Tim Kaine. Even Tim Kaine speak out about against Todd Howard and the way that Bethesda's running things. And keep in mind, Tim Kaine was the dude who said, oh yeah, I made the lore about this thing that happened in the Fallout universe. And you know what? It's an amazing thing that the TV show takes this lore and throws it in the trash and replaces it with something everyone hates and is stupid and doesn't make sense. Todd, please give me a job. Please, give me a job. Yes, I even think that Tim Kaine is gonna slowly but surely start saying things that are negative towards Bethesda and Todd Howard, because they're done. They are done. Starfield completely destroyed Bethesda. And the 2 expansions that have followed Starfield have pretty much just put the final nails in the coffin. It's over. No one expects anything good from Bethesda.
Each other's throats in California, he says. And so that was the reason for some of the precursor decisions for some of the DLC stuff and some of the stuff in the core of New Vegas, when we still thought we'd be able to do a New Vegas 2 or whatever the title would be, but that quickly evaporated. He continues on saying that a sequel will not happen for at least the next 6 years, if ever. But again, we're hearing that this is confirmation that this was part of the plan here. So obviously that brings about the question, like, what happened? Right? For those who have not tracked this generational beef between Obsidian and Bethesda, which is so frustrating, because I really do think if things didn't go the way they did, we probably could have more Fallout games right now, and I think Obsidian would be more willing. I mean, they've put it out there that they're willing to, but Bethesda clearly wasn't happy with what happened with New Vegas. Let's just jump into this PowerPoint thing, man, because for me to get my full thoughts out about it, New Vegas 2 and what prevented it, I'll just say this shit's so stupid. So this comes from PC Gamer, and they write, Fallout New Vegas dev says Bethesda made the studio sit through a whole PowerPoint about all the things Obsidian did wrong here. Let's read the quotes. The reason I'm making these expressions and hesitations about it is because despite what I thought would be a cool examination of Fallout, it is so different from the core experience that was obviously a huge turnoff for a lot of people. Now this, ladies and gentlemen, is talking about dead money for Fallout. DLC at the time because it takes all your stuff away and challenges you to play.
Yeah, that money is currently even considered the weakest Fallout. I mean, I have played Fallout New Vegas, I don't know how many times, and I have not once played that money. Yes.
It's really weird, and certainly at first I get why people didn't like it, because you wanted things more like right? Just more New Vegas, but just more personality, more environments to explore, more weapons to get, right? So that's what people were looking for, but you got a real, for example, put it like a Japanese Fallout. What you taking everything in front of you. That sort of stuff I thought was really cool, but it was mainly because I played that game. I remember playing it once. Fine, but I really started to love that money way after the game had come out, because it just
Get us out of here.
So given that New Vegas is this real complete package of all the DLC, it's kind of refreshing that it offers something different, challenges you to play differently in these modern Fallout games, which really, when you think about it,
yeah, I don't personally think that the game that makes an expansion and does things differently from the base game to a very radical degree is necessarily that, but games that stand alone, people are like, hey, this game that I like and play has a DLC, and the DLC is just it does, well, that's not the one-to-one example here, but that does throw people off. It's understandable why Dead Money is, to this point, still not seen in the most favorable light by the super majority of people.
A lot of them kind of do. Like, Fallout 3 never challenges differently. Fallout 4 certainly doesn't. New Vegas also doesn't outside of this DLC, so it just stands out to me in that way, where it's a real strong survival experience experience among also the themes of greed that kind of present itself by the end of the DLC. TK was kind of like saying how great it was, and then we got here Chris kind of being a little surprised by it, and we kind of get into that. He says, and while TK's Mantis tried to brush aside these concerns, Avalon insists that when it came to sales and reviews, it matters. And also Bethesda used review scores against us for the DLCs for like why the
Before, by the way, Bethesda lost its grace, I think it was actually Chris Avalon or someone at Obsidian from that time who said, oh no, Bethesda never used the review score against us or did any of this bad stuff. Because they were afraid of
control of the platform, Shepard.
Some people don't understand this is how the game is played.
I always work at optimal
but
capacity.
a lot of people do understand that this is exactly how the game is played. While you're powerful, everyone sucks up to you. The moment you are not, well, people actually start getting their real opinions.
They didn't want to keep doing things with us anyway, even though they didn't want to keep doing things with us anyway. So whatever. My ladies and gentlemen, that this is not the same story as the Metacritic one, right? This is talking about the DLC. The Metacritic bonus that we heard about, where Obsidian was supposed to get a certain bonus payout.
Why are you so sure?
A certain score.
I found the anomaly with Cerberus detection protocols.
So now we see that Bethesda continued to just pound away on Obsidian with their review scores, including the DLC, which is so funny because at the end of the road, when you look at New Vegas as a complete package, they made some of the best DLC of all time. Like it completes the narrative, it enjoys it, it expands the base game.
I do not have full control of their systems. I will do what I can.
Start talking to certain characters,
sending coordinates for shuttle extraction.
Their backstories that tie into certain DLC. I guess speaking of Dead Money, like Veronica's a much more interesting character when you have Dead Money available to you. That sort of stuff. Chris Avalon continued to say, it was fun. They had a whole PowerPoint, not even about the DLC. They had a whole PowerPoint about all the things Obsidian did wrong. And we were like, wow. And they showed it to us. And we were like, okay, this is hugely morale boosting, of course, being sarcastic. He continued saying, I thought we made a good product for you guys that kept Fallout in the public.
Yeah, and this is the thing. Even though the very initial reception towards New Vegas it wasn't the super greatest because there were a lot of bugs. But still, the reception towards New Vegas was good, and when it got fixed up and patched up to a level that is, fitting of consumption on the proper level, people loved it.
Consciousness, but you guys are very happy about it, despite the fact that a lot of intervention is necessary. So yeah, now I can finally get to some thoughts on this. I think this is why. If I must I don't think the Metacritic bonus is as big of a factor, but there are now, we see repeat offenses here. I don't know if this really represents how Bethesda and Obsidian view themselves right now, but this is why that partnership never went anywhere when it obviously should have. We needed more Fallout games. What's so funny about all of this is that we now have what many consider to be the best modern Fallout game. Was being destroyed by Bethesda, presenting PowerPoints of what they did wrong, when for many fans, it's everything that they did right that made.
And by the way, presenting a PowerPoint to a game that had how many expansions are there even for New Vegas? I'm sorry, legitimately. Is it not the Fallout with the most?
This is what you face.
I think it is. I think it is the Fallout game with the most expansions. You can't tell me the Fallout game with the most expansions is bad. Bad games don't get expansions. Bad games get shafted. No, it's not. That's because otherwise I think there would be a release of Steam terms of service so people would be able to get their money back.
To stand above the bugs and that sort of stuff. We'll have to look at the Retro Rebound. I just did a full playthrough of New Vegas on PS3 to get the Platinum Trophy. That game is busted on that system, but I still thought the game is brilliant, absolutely brilliant. So it addressed with the game, which is more Fallout. But at the time, there's no denying, this is something that I talked about when we went into Dr. Sawyer's thoughts, kind of more about New Vegas and how it took a while for it to get better. I remember reading Twitter replies.
But Maddie's still not saying the obvious thing that all of us are thinking, and that is obviously Bethesda, and especially
right on your ass.
Obsidian and New Vegas because it's the best game in the franchise. I mean, I was also be honestly pretty pissed if, you know, I did a thing, then I contacted someone to do a small thing, and that small thing turned out to be the best thing ever. I would also be quite pissed about that, needless to say.
People going, what? It always was love. I'm like, no, it wasn't. Like, it took a while for the public to turn that corner. There were many people who liked it a lot, but the general consensus was like Fallout 3 DLC, Fallout 3 2.0. It was that sort of take for the game. And so at the time, Bethesda reacted like, hey, this is doing damage to our brand. We shouldn't do this. Like, look what you guys are doing. Look at the reviews. You know, look at the Dead Money reviews and how people don't like this. And obviously, they kind of had a comeback later with the DLC between Lonesome Road as well as Old World Blues. But you can see here why New Vegas 2 never happened, why that quickly evaporated, because I'm sure there was a level of like...
This doesn't make sense. If Bethesda thought that it's so bad, they would never greenlit other DLCs. That's how these things work. But Obsidian doesn't have the right to make a DLC for a game they were contracted to develop. They don't have the rights. They can't. That's not a thing. Bethesda gives them the right and green light to do it. And they, for some reason, did. So the idea that all of this was so bad, and Bethesda knew it's so bad, and there were actually legitimate criticisms of it, kind of evaporate when you understand a simple principle that if everything was so bad, why the hell did that game get new DLCs? How does that make sense? Did you just magically decide to pump in millions into something that's not even making $10?
Hey man, you guys don't like what we're doing here, but New Vegas made a lot of money. And it's so funny because Bethesda is still collecting off of it. Just last year, New Vegas had a 50th anniversary, and a 50th done. Well, we're getting to that now. They had a 50th anniversary, and Bethesda sold a whole New Vegas collection. But that's not what we have here. I now see them as going to fly. Never happened. Now, certainly I think like enough time has passed where there should be some sort of very that look like we're happy to at the same time.
Obsidian is saying that publicly because behind Jesus Christ, things are hard. Behind closed doors, Bethesda has already said that. They are saying this publicly because they are hoping Microsoft sees that and says, you know what? Yeah, let's do that. Because Microsoft has the last say in this. Again, they own Bethesda. If Microsoft decides that's happening, the TV show. Again, Todd Howard has always been against the TV show. He has been approached multiple times before Microsoft Activision to make a Fallout TV show. He said no every single time. Probably because he was going to say that that's an Obsidian situation, maybe. But he said no every single time. And then Microsoft said yes. And once Todd Howard has to do that, he just has to go along with it because it's not his company. And this is what Obsidian is trying to pull off. They're trying to get Microsoft to pay attention and give the green light. Because Bethesda behind closed doors has already said no. They're piling pressure with this public stuff.
Time, I think one of the biggest mistakes during Phil Spencer's tenure is not immediately greenlighting Age of Fallout. The fact that we were getting rumors last year that Xbox was greenlighting Fallout is crazy. And that it was Fallout 5, where for Bethesda games, that's years and years down the line, presumably that they're making it. But this is one of those moments where you gotta come in with a forceful hand, I feel, and say like, hey, you gotta get this done. We need more Fallout. And I think the New Vegas style Fallout is what
I'll put them down.
But I mean, I think if you took Fallout 4, think about Fallout 4. Fallout 4, it's got solid first-person shooting, good on-foot exploration, like it checks all the boxes, and I really love Fallout 4. But I'm saying that if you just took that system and handed it to another developer and said, okay, make a new environmental aspect like New Vegas, a new place, and in the case of New Vegas, make the role-play.
Gesundheit, bless you.
I imagine this new team to have more time to do a Fallout spin-off, I think that could reach an incredibly fun Fallout.
Yeah, right on your ass!
But again, we see here that Bethesda was clearly very protective of Fallout, and they thought that the city was going to be damaged to them with New Vegas.
No.
It's just so funny. I mean, the idea they got sat down for a PowerPoint saying, here's what you did wrong, all this time later. And
they got an 84 at that time. There was no reason to think damage. No.
Is like the distinction of Fallout. That's a cold part of it.
Right on your ass.
And I do wonder how Bethesda feels about that. Here they we've had leaks and rumors now for a while that we're going to get a remastered. Oblivion was remastered in this kind of going the line of remake. However,
wait. I wanted to speak on this. We're going to talk about the Oblivion remaster separately, but I don't think this is necessarily a good thing. Now, technically it is, but you need to understand Bethesda. They hate the Oblivion remaster. The Oblivion remaster at this point has fallen into an absolute unplayable state of disrepair. And Bethesda's not even pretending that they're gonna do anything about it. They're just leaving it to rot. Because the Oblivion remaster was it just showed what's happening behind the curtain. It showed everyone at Bethesda, it showed also Microsoft that Bethesda's lying. All these excuses of, oh, you wouldn't like old stuff, you're just still looking at through rose-tinted goggles and whatnot. All of this was fine. And the Oblivion remaster proved it because the Oblivion remaster sells like hotcakes and people loved it. It came out and people praised, massively praised it. And the things that people talked poorly about it were literally Bethesda decisions. For example, moving Jennifer being like a day demo or whatever the hell they did there. I even forgot that. That's it. People hated everything but that Bethesda did with the Oblivion remaster, and people loved the Oblivion remaster in general because it was the old game. New people who never played any of the old Bethesda stuff, even Skyrim, played it, and they loved it. Overall consensus about the Oblivion remaster was spot on perfection. Purely love.
We have to go.
And now Bethesda is leaving it raw because they need to destroy it, because it directly just shows everyone who's paying attention that Bethesda's lost. They don't have what it takes. And all of their excuses are just
work for it this time.
What? They wanted to tell everyone, oh, the old stuff's not actually good. Well, here's the old stuff, and people love it. So now Bethesda is leaving the Oblivion remaster in complete state of disrepair, and it's probably never gonna get fixed. You only can now rely to port mods to fix it. Otherwise, it's not gonna work. It's gonna die.
Chris Avalon had something to say about that in his headline from Video Game Chronicle. Bethesda doesn't have the engineering know-how to remaster Fallout New Vegas. Okay, let's give this a read. He says, just real simply, I don't think Bethesda has the engineering know-how to make a remaster of New Vegas at all. Avalon added that he hasn't played last year's remaster of Oblivion.
This is also something I have brought up. It's the fact that literally Skyrim is getting bugs at this point. Iterations of Skyrim, the new anniversary editions and things like that, they're getting bugs that have not been seen for decades. And Bethesda can't
She also
fix
discovered that the Turian distress
this
signal
has not
originated from the
happened
collectors. There's
this
no
has
way
been,
you thought
this
it was
has
real.
never happened before. And now
Without
it's
that
happening.
information, we
That's
don't
because
reach the
Bethesda
collector
has
homeworld.
absolutely no one
You
who
and
knows
every
what
other
they're
human
doing.
may as well be dead.
But he said he had
It was a
heard
trap.
some people enjoyed
But
the
I was
visuals, but
confident in your
overall it seemed
ability.
like the reception was
And don't
kind
forget
of
Edie.
negative.
The collectors
Now,
couldn't have
this here, I
anticipated
think,
her.
kind of devalues, and I say this with all due respect to Chris, I think it devalues a little bit of his point.
You
because
could have
it's
told
like,
me the
you
plan.
gotta play that to say,
You
like,
say I'm
Bethesda
important,
doesn't have
but
the
you sure
engineering
try hard to
know-how.
get me
Because,
killed.
again, I think that what you had with Oblivion was
they had the upper hand.
I really like the Oblivion Master, but it did have a lot of problems performance-wise. You know, again, because of Unreal Engine 5 and the lack of optimization with that engine and how developers kind of use it as a brute force tool, you get a lot of games that run like crap on it. And so,
there were always
in my experience at least, Oblivion Remaster was that same story there. But it was awesome to have all the content packaged in, though. Having Shivering Isles there, that was really cool. But all in all, I feel like you gotta play it to say, like, Bethesda doesn't have the engineering know-how, because what they did with Oblivion Remaster was very different from other remasters that we have seen here. That said, as Avalon gets deeper into it, I think the point starts to justify itself beyond the headline, because the headline only tells part of the story here. TK's Mantis suggested that it's currently rumored a Fallout 3 remaster would potentially use the same method, and that people would want it to be done with New Vegas as well. Avalon replies, well, I mean, just pragmatically, it would make more sense to try out that process with Fallout 3 before going to New Vegas, just to see what all the problems and issues are as a result. And other than that, fundamentally, it would be an impossibility for them. And Avalon says, yeah, for one reason, claiming that Obsidian studio head Fergus Urquhart chose not to give Bethesda the original source code after development had ended. The very last milestone for New Vegas was, please deliver all the source code and the ability to make the build, and we'll pay you like $10,000 for that milestone. $10,000, by the way. Can you imagine, in AAA development,
that's literally pennies
trapped in the gravity of a brown
to deliver this work? That's crazy. Now, what the milestone really meant is that all those assets were given to Bethesda. That means they can recreate the game at any time. So, for reasons unknown to me, says Avalon, but I have suspicions, Fergus decided not to cash out that milestone.
Did to the Citadel.
Oh, of course he decided to do this. What are we talking about? Even back in the day, 10K for something like this was not a lot of money.
Took their first steps.
In fact, it's kind of an insult. Hey, poor shit.
Perhaps it was their one moment.
Spits in face. Here's 10K. Give us everything. And that everything is obviously worth more. And after you belittle, demean the guy who made the best Fallout series, and you're lying straight up to his face saying it's bad, and everyone thinks it's bad, which is an obvious lie, even at that time. Even though at that time it was less of a lie, but still a lie.
Of course
he's not giving you the source code for effectively pennies. That's just an insult.
So the elusive man didn't sell us out.
He added that it's not a strange decision if you feel, which would not be out of the realm of possibility,
needed access to the collector databanks.
That the New Vegas experience cheated him out of X amount of money, in which case cutting off the revenue stream from that product for a time would be a possibility. I could certainly see that, and I'm not saying that's the case.
My analysis
so Bethesda does have the source code for New Vegas.
I have also determined the approximate location of the collector homeworld based on navigational data from their vessel.
After that period of time said they have no idea how to reassemble it. So there's also that element there. Now, given Jez Corden has reported that New Vegas is getting some sort of remaster, but it's furthest down the line, there could be a grain of truth to this, that whatever this Fallout 3 remaster is going to be is going to define that New Vegas remaster in more ways than you can imagine. Again, is it possible that Obsidian still has the source code, Fergus and the team at Obsidian?
You know what's strange about this one is the fact that I'm pretty sure Microsoft also acquired Obsidian Studios.
Space station protected by powerful
while
mass
Obsidian
effect fields
Studios, when talking
even
to
the collectors
Bethesda,
don't have
is
that
still
kind of
their own
technology.
entity. They are still all under the
collectors are just servants of our real
Microsoft,
enemy.
which means Pod
masters
technically has the ability to go running crying to Big Daddy Microsoft and say, wait, we want the code. So this is not actually a legit problem unless Obsidian doesn't have the
is that a small safe zone exists on the far side of the relay.
It is possible, I guess, but it's kind of hard to imagine at the same time. You know, they probably obviously stored something as important as the code for the game they built. You know, it just makes sense.
Reaper IFF must trigger the relay to use more advanced encrypted protocols.
This is also a thing that's happening, which means Todd is completely ignoring this possibility and is
sooner or later
probably sweeping this under the rug because again,
what if the collectors are waiting
being
for us?
Bethesda,
we may want to build up our
being
team
way
before we
bigger
take
than
that kind of
Obsidian,
risk.
has obviously
the more people we have on our side, the better our chances of
it's your call, Commander.
delivers
whatever
the
you decide,
full in contact with Microsoft to get the code if he wants to. Now, granted, unless I'm being mistaken, and Microsoft did not buy Obsidian, but I'm pretty sure they have. Because they gave Obsidian a lot of money to develop Avowed and Outer Worlds 2, which were both huge disasters, by the way.
Obsidian buried the hatchet with Bethesda, and they're like, yeah, we'll give it to you. Like, is it possible things have moved on since then? Absolutely, because Chris Avellone left Obsidian a long while ago, but we also know he's well connected to Obsidian, given that like he's revealed that like Avowed 2 was going to be a thing, and that we saw that Obsidian themselves kind of admitted it in a interview with Jason Schreier of Bloomberg, where they talked about how Avowed didn't do that well, but also Outer Worlds 2 didn't, but they're going to look into doing more Avowed. So no doubt, I think he's still got his connections and he would know this sort of stuff here. I think this is the one I feel the most mixed about, because Bethesda did just remaster Oblivion, and it did come out in a way where it was a top 10 selling game. A lot of people were really happy about it. I enjoyed it enough, but I wish I enjoyed it more, is kind of how I walked away feeling about it. But I don't think I'm in the majority on that one here. But otherwise, I think when you kind of look at like holding back the source code, again, we go back to generational beef. That's item number 3 on the list. Okay, we got Metacritic, PowerPoint presentation, no source code being handed off. Like, you can no longer convince me that the reason we didn't get more Fallout from Obsidian isn't because like Obsidian wanted to do more things. It's because like, working with Bethesda probably sucked, and I'm sure Bethesda felt the same way about Obsidian. They're like, fuck these guys, we don't want to work with them. So I just found this to be a deeply interesting set of answers for.
Yeah, there's a lot there, obviously. Anyway, that was Mr. Matty Slop. 10 out of 10. Bye.
Fuck, there's a good car you got. Told you that goat ass was clean. Rule number 2, if you can't, better off with women, mate. Yeah, all right. No.